All right, get ready to dive into Sapiens with us today. We're going to be taking a look at the really, really early days of humans.
Way before you could just, like, order takeout.
Definitely before seamless, yeah. More like before agriculture even existed. We're talking early, early humans.
And it's a period that really makes you rethink some stuff.
It totally does. Like, we tend to think of humans as, the top of the food chain. We're calling the shots.
Right? Running the show.
But Sapiens paints this totally different picture. Like, our ancestors were basically the underdogs
Scavenging for scraps.
for a really, really long time. Like 2 million years of cracking open bones just to get to the marrow.
It really puts things into perspective.
2 million years. That just seems crazy. I mean, it makes you wonder, like, how did we go from that to, well, this?
That's the question, isn't it? And it's one of the things that makes studying early Homo sapiens so fascinating.
Yeah, because it's not like other top predators, right? I mean, lions, sharks, they took millions of years to get where they are.
This is true. There's a balance there.
But humans, it's like we kind of just showed up and took over.
Relatively speaking, yes.
And the rest of the planet is still trying to catch up.
And so are we, I think, which is, a whole other conversation.
So we were basically the scared little creatures hiding from giant predators, and then boom, suddenly we're in charge.
It's a bit more complicated than that, but yeah, that's the gist.
Okay, so how do we even start to make sense of that? How did we go from scrounging for leftovers to, building skyscrapers and writing symphonies?
Well, a good place to start is to remember that back then, it wasn't just Homo sapiens trying to survive. There were other humans around, too.
Wait, other humans? You mean like other species of humans?
Exactly. You had Neanderthals, Homo erectus, even these fascinating little guys called Homo floresiensis. They were tiny.
Okay, now that's just cool. Different types of humans running around. So how do scientists even figure out what makes a species different? Is it just about how they look or what?
It can get pretty complex. Think of it like dog breeds. You've got your bulldog and your spaniel. They can mate, have puppies, no problem.
Right, same species.
But what about a horse and a donkey?
That's a mule. They can't make more mules, can they?
Exactly. So different species. With humans, it gets even more interesting. There's genetic evidence that sapiens, us, we got up close and personal with Neanderthals and Denisovans.
Like interbreeding.
Yeah, but it wasn't enough to fully merge the species.
Okay, so we've got all these different humans sharing the planet, sometimes, I'm guessing, hooking up, sometimes probably fighting for food and resources. And yet here we are, and they're not.
And that brings us to one of the things that truly sets Homo sapiens apart, our capacity for language.
Okay, I have a feeling this is where things are about to get really good. Language. Okay, so how does language, something we kind of take for granted, how does that make us so special?
Well, it's not just language, it's the type of language.
What do you mean?
Think about animal communication. They make sounds, right? Birds, dolphins, even ants.
Sure, but it's not like they're, writing poetry.
Exactly. They're communicating about very specific things.
Easy.
Danger, food, that sort of thing.
Okay, so we're back to stories again.
Kind of. You see, Homo sapiens, we took language, and we used it to create something totally new. We started talking about things that didn't exist.
Things that didn't exist, like what? Give me an example.
Well, let's go back to those monkeys. You can't convince a monkey to give up a banana by promising infinite bananas in monkey heaven after it dies.
Monkey heaven, right. Because that's not, a fit.
But humans, we believe in things we can't see or touch. We believe in things we can only imagine.
Okay, I think I see where you're going with this.
It's this belief in the imaginary that allowed us to do something no other animal could do. It allowed us to cooperate in massive numbers.
Because we're all on the same page.
Exactly. We're united by a common myth, a shared belief. It could be a religion, a nation, even an idea like money.
Wait, money? How is money a shared myth? It's like right there in my wallet.
But what makes that piece of paper in your wallet valuable? It's not like it's made of gold or something.
Well, it's worth something.
Yeah, okay.
Because,
Okay.
yeah, that's like we all decided it was worth something.
Precisely. Sapiens uses the example of the Peugeot car company.
The one with the lion.
Yes. Peugeot, it's not a real thing, not in the way that, say, a mountain is a real thing. It's a company, a legal construct.
Okay, but they make cars. I've seen them.
They do. But the company itself, it exists because we all agree that it exists. It's a story, a very powerful story.
So we've created this entire world with its own rules and systems, all based on stories.
We have. It's both amazing and honestly a bit terrifying when you really think about it, because these stories we tell ourselves, they have very real consequences.
Okay, yeah, that's a lot to process. So if our world is basically shaped by these shared beliefs, these stories, what does that mean for us? Like, where do we go from here?
That's the question, isn't it? It's what Harari calls cultural evolution, this ability to change our behavior, to change the world around us, not through genetic evolution, but through the stories we tell ourselves.
Cultural evolution. Okay, now that sounds complicated.
It is, but it's also the key to understanding how we got from scavenging for scraps to, well, being able to have this conversation about it.
Cultural evolution. Okay, I'm going to be honest, that sounds a little intimidating, like something out of a sci-fi movie.
It might sound like science fiction, but it's more down to earth than you might think. Look, our biology, our DNA, that stuff takes forever to change, right? Like we're talking thousands, millions of years.
Yeah, evolution is a slow process.
Exactly. But with cultural evolution, things can change much faster. Think of it this way. If your phone is running slow, you don't just throw it away and wait a decade for a new one to evolve, right? You update the software.
Okay, I see where you're going with this.
It's the same with us. We can change our programming, our beliefs, our behaviors much faster than our biology can evolve. And that's cultural evolution in action.
So instead of waiting for our genes to catch up, we can just, like, rewrite the code of our culture.
Exactly. And that brings us back to that example from the book, the one about priests and monks.
Oh, right, the ones who choose not to have kids.
Yeah. Now, from a purely biological perspective, it makes no sense. If you're at the top of your game, evolutionarily speaking, you want to pass on those genes.
Right. Have lots of kids, spread your genes around.
Exactly. But these guys, they're playing a different game. They're focused on something bigger than themselves, something that goes beyond their individual lifespan. They're focused on ideas, on beliefs, on stories.
So it's like their legacy is about passing on those ideas, not necessarily their genes.
Exactly. It's cultural evolution in action. And it highlights just how powerful this force is.
It's kind of mind-blowing when you think about it that way.
Sure.
Because when you look at how much the world has changed, even in the last 100 years, it's staggering. I mean, we went from horses and buggies to self-driving cars.
Right. And think about all the social changes, too. The way we communicate, the things we value. It's all different. Our biology hasn't changed that much in a century, but our imagined realities, the stories we tell ourselves, they've gone through a complete transformation.
So where do we go from here? If we're really shaping the world with our beliefs, with these imagined realities, does that mean we can kind of steer things in a better direction? Or are we just along for the ride?
That, my friend, is the million-dollar question. And it's one that Harari leaves us wrestling with. Because if we really do have this power, this ability to shape our future through the stories we tell, then we have a responsibility to choose those stories wisely. So, to our listeners out there, what stories will you choose to believe in? What kind of future will you help to create? Think about it and let us know. Until next time.